Victor! Did you do this?
I swear, you will beg for a hell long before I grant it. Hell answers to me.
Production has officially begun at Pinewood Studios on Avengers Secret Wars, and the first images coming out of that lot are not what anyone expected. Not a cosmic battlefield, not a multiversal war zone, a manicured suburban neighborhood street. Clean houses, trimmed lawns, the kind of neighborhood that looks like nothing bad has ever happened there, and probably never will. And if you understand what Battleworld actually is, and how Dr. Doom governs it, that image is one of the most quietly terrifying things Marvel has ever put in front of a camera. Because that is how Doom rules. He does not rule through fear of the visible. He rules through the erasure of memory. The people living on those streets believe this is the only world that has ever existed. They have no memory of Earth 616, or Earth 828, or the Fox X-Men universe, or any of the realities that were compressed into this patchwork planet. They wake up every morning in a world that was built from the wreckage of everything they once were, and they have no idea because the man who built it made sure they would not remember what they lost. That is the horror the set images are communicating without saying a word, and it is the perfect visual opening for the most ambitious Marvel film ever made. Avengers Secret Wars is December 2027. Production is running in tandem with the final editing phases of Doomsday. The Russo brothers are treating both films as a single continuous production rather than two separate projects, which is exactly what they did with Infinity War and Endgame, and exactly what this story requires. Let's go through everything we know: the set leaks, the Dr. Doom backstory, how the Doomsday climax feeds directly into this film, the symbiote suit origin, the Battleworld governance structure, and what the Phase 7 reset actually looks like when the dust settles. The script is being adapted from two distinct Marvel publishing milestones simultaneously, which is the right call and the only call that makes sense given what both source materials offer. The 1984 Secret Wars, Jim Shooter and Mike Zeck's original crossover event provides the character-driven foundation, the intimate moments, the specific personal dynamics of heroes stranded in an alien environment trying to figure out who they are when everything familiar has been stripped away. Most importantly for this film, it provides the alien symbiote origin. Peter Parker's suit gets damaged in combat. He finds alien machinery that generates a new one, and the black suit bonds with him in a way that changes everything about who he is and what he becomes. That story has been waiting 40 years for a proper cinematic treatment, and Secret Wars is where it finally arrives. Jonathan Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars provides the grand structural mechanics, the incursions, the life raft, the reality collapse, God Emperor Doom governing Battleworld with the Thor Corps as multiversal enforcement, the resistance of heroes who remember what the world was and are trying to restore it, the philosophical weight of a villain who is genuinely right about the problem while being catastrophically wrong about the solution. Both source materials are feeding into a single film, and the Pinewood sets suggest the Russo brothers understand that grounded, practical environments are what give cosmic stories their emotional gravity. Dr. Doom's origin is the emotional architecture that everything else is built on. Robert Downey Jr. is playing Victor Von Doom from Earth 828, the retro-futuristic universe of the Fantastic Four. He grew up alongside Reed Richards and Sue Storm, and the team that would become the Fantastic Four. He was their peer, their associate, and in Sue Storm's own words, the smartest person in any room that included her husband. He mastered both the mystic arts, becoming Earth 828's Sorcerer Supreme in the absence of competing mystical figures, and advanced engineering that rivals anything Tony Stark ever built. He was, by any measure, the most capable person his universe had ever produced. And then, an incursion took his family. The piece of cloth wrapped around his arm that promotional material has confirmed is a personal memento of that loss, a physical remnant of the people he could not save. Every time Doom extends that arm to catch Stormbreaker mid-flight or channel Latverian sorcery through runic gauntlets, that cloth is there. He has built the most fearsome arsenal in the multiverse around a piece of fabric from the world he failed to protect. That is not a supervillain's origin story. That is grief that found an outlet. His argument that all the heroes are living stolen lives and must give them back is not sophistry. It is a bill of particulars. The endgame time heist moved Infinity Stones through the timeline and created cascading instabilities. Steve Rogers chose to stay in the past and built a family in a timeline that was never supposed to contain him, generating a nexus event that triggered incursions. Loki's multiversal tree restructured the sacred timeline into something that allowed realities to bleed into each other in new and unpredictable ways. The X-Men's Days of Future Past timeline reset created additional branching. The heroes did not intend to destabilize the multiverse. They were saving people they loved. But intention and consequence are different things, and the consequence is that Victor Von Doom's family is dead because of choices people made in a universe that was not his. He is not wrong about any of this. He is wrong about what it entitles him to do about it. The Doomsday climax feeds directly into Secret Wars through a specific sequence that the early material has outlined. The final confrontation of Doomsday takes place in the X-Men's homeworld. Sentinels, Doom against both heroes and villains simultaneously. The moment when his true agenda becomes visible to everyone who is being played against each other. He acquires the multiversal artifacts he needs, and then, rather than destroying everything, he does something far more specific. He compresses the remaining fragments of collapsed dimensions into a single patchwork planet. He builds Battleworld from the wreckage of what he unmade, and a small group of heroes survives aboard a life raft, specifically engineered using Fantastic Four technology, because Reed Richards always has a contingency even when he cannot quite complete it in time, and lands on the surface of the world Doom has constructed over the void. The Brand New Day post-credit scene is the precise bridge between those two films. Peter Parker's location reading as unknown on Ned's Spike Tracker app is not a glitch. It is the first moment that Queen stops belonging to Earth 616 and starts belonging to Battleworld. The cosmic distortions in the visual interface are the reality collapse happening in real time around a smartphone screen in New York. And the secondary signal moving through deep space is another Spider-Man, almost certainly Tobey Maguire's Peter, navigating the early stages of the same collapse aboard or alongside the Fantastic Four's vessel. On Battleworld, Peter Parker's suit sustains severe damage in an early skirmish. He finds alien machinery within Doom's domain while trying to repair his gear. The machinery generates what appears to be a replacement suit. It is black. It is organic. It bonds with him. This is the 1984 Secret Wars Issue 8 origin, playing out in a cinematic context for the first time in 40 years of Spider-Man film history. Every previous black suit story, Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 tease that never paid off, has been working around the actual origin rather than simply telling it. The machinery exists on Battleworld because Doom built Battleworld from the fragments of multiple universes, and some of those fragments contain things that were never meant to encounter a human being. The symbiote was waiting. Peter Parker found it by accident, and the darker character dynamics that follow in future standalone films will trace directly back to this moment. Battleworld's governance structure is the concept art material painting the most vivid picture. Doom as God Emperor sits at the center of everything. The Thor Corps, an enforcement unit composed of Thor variants from multiple realms, police the territories. Anyone who begins to remember the world before Battleworld is dealt with. The castle Doomstat set at Pinewood is the central citadel, the hub of his authority, the location where the film's final battle is expected to take place. The surviving heroes from the life raft must traverse different Battleworld territories to restore the memories of displaced allies, people who are living their quiet suburban lives in those manicured neighborhoods with no idea who they were or what they lost. Every memory restored is a soldier recruited. Every domain traversed is a step toward the castle. The Greenland domain concept art is the specific detail that the Hulk fandom has been paying close attention to. A territory populated by Gamma-powered individuals. Bruce Banner, She-Hulk, Scar, the full roster of Gamma-level characters that the MCU has been accumulating and somewhat struggling to deploy coherently. Battleworld, giving them their own domain, governed by their own logic. with Banner in some version of the Savage Hulk state that Brand New Day established. That is a direction for the character that the comics have explored beautifully, and that the MCU has never quite had the structural space to attempt. The Young Hero Coalition glimpsed in concept art, Villy and Tommy Maximoff, Kamala Khan, Star-Lord operating as a cosmic traveler navigating between domains, suggests the film is going to use Battleworld as a way of assembling the next generation of MCU heroes in a context where their specific individual stories have natural room to develop. They are not background characters here. Battleworld is the environment that shapes who they become for Phase 7. T'Challa 2, operating in a prominent role heading toward Black Panther 3, confirms that the Secret Wars reset is the mechanism aging him from the child we saw at the end of Wakanda Forever into the adult warrior David Johnson will be playing. He does not simply grow up off-screen, he comes through something that changes what he is. Battleworld is that something. The resolution, the thing the entire Multiverse Saga has been building towards since Loki rewrote the sacred timeline. Franklin Richards' reality warping power, operating at a level beyond any Infinity Stone, the ability of a child who can remake physical reality through imagination, combined with the Scarlet Witch's chaos magic, and whatever role God Loki plays as the entity currently holding the multiversal branches together. This is the coalition that rebuilds the universe. Not a weapon, not a device. People whose specific natures allow them to do what the multiverse requires. The post-Secret Wars MCU is a single merged reality. Earth 616, Earth 828, and the Legacy Fox universe, synthesized into one Earth that mirrors the 616 of Marvel Comics. Mutants are not explained as multiversal visitors or dimensional anomalies. They are part of the historical fabric of a reality that has always contained them, because the rebuilt universe incorporates that history, rather than retrofitting it. The X-Men arriving in May 2028 on that foundation are not immigrants, they are coming home to a world that suddenly remembers they were always here. Legacy characters receive definitive conclusions. The franchise can recast over time without breaking continuity, because the continuity itself has been deliberately restructured to allow for that. Secret Wars is not just the biggest Marvel film. It is the mechanism that makes all subsequent Marvel films possible, with the full roster of characters the mythology has always promised and corporate licensing previously prevented. The Russo brothers have done this before. 2 films that are one story, told across a production that refuses to treat them as separate events. Infinity War and Endgame worked because every choice in the first film was made in service of what the second film required. That logic applies here in the same way and at an even larger scale. Doomsday breaks everything. Secret Wars asks what you rebuild from the wreckage, and who gets to decide. Victor Von Doom's answer to that question is that he does. He gets to decide. He lost everything because of choices other people made, and he has spent every moment since then ensuring that no one will ever make those choices without his authorization again. That is not a supervillain's motivation. That is the specific shape grief takes when it has sufficient intelligence and sufficient power. The hero's answer is that the people who lost their memories deserve to get them back. That the world Doom built from grief is not a world, it is a monument to what he refuses to accept. And that the actual response to irreversible loss is not to rebuild the universe in the dead person's image, it is to live in the one that remains. That is the argument December 2027 is going to stage at the largest possible scale. And based on everything production is building at Pinewood Studios, it is going to be extraordinary. So here's what I need from you. The symbiote suit arriving through Battleworld, does that feel like the origin this suit has been waiting for? And do you think Tom Holland's Peter Parker can carry the darker character dynamics that come with it? And the Franklin Richards and Scarlet Witch coalition to rebuild the universe, is that the right combination of reality warping power, or is there someone missing from that equation? Drop everything in the comments, because Secret Wars is the destination, and I want to figure out what it looks like with you before we get there.